Is there darkness all around you? Are you lost, confused, afraid? All the time, afraid inside. Does it sometimes feel like you're walking through a dark, endless cave with no way out in sight? Does it feel like you're falling further and further into an endless pit of despair? Does it seem that nobody can help you or even understands what it is you're going through? You're Lincoln.
Congratulations. You have done well, my friend. I see you have united the powers. Excellent.
We can now end this, once and for all. Come.
Yes. Let's bring an end to this charade. Finally, it is time for the truth. Let us remove our masks.
None of us can truly claim to know what was said or done back then. None of us were there. But those documents are the foundations of or the template of a country called America. Those documents are no longer upheld as its foundations, nor are they followed as written. So this is no longer that country that was called America, for their beliefs that built that nation are no longer held. Call it something else, but don't call this country America. The United States was built by men who fought to free its people of those issues. But the United States was still America because it still upheld their forefathers' idea of a dream. That dream is beyond the turmoil of the evils of the world and acts of men, because it is a dream of a better tomorrow. Your idea of what this country should be, by tossing out its foundations, does not help any endeavor to rebuild the structure of the governing body, nor does it help re-establish our system to which our founding fathers helped build. It kills that dream. In fact, those acts that seek to destroy our roots only help destroy our path back towards a governing body, which is what generally has withheld the justice system and its military from imposing its military force to squelch any dissidents through the overall scenario that has occurred here since the riots began. We must adhere to what laws and rights our founding fathers extended us for this situation, otherwise we would face the full military, executive and judicial might of the superpower this country has become, and you all that support this destructive abolishment of our forefathers' written foundations for issues that have nothing to do with political corruption or the tyrannical monster that is manipulating it, that we have been given the right to rise up against. You misunderstand this, so let me be a little more clear here, as I am guessing the source of this may be allies not from here, therefore they do not know. Our founders gave us the right to rise up, but against the tyrannical monster that the government has been taken control by, not the right to rise up against America itself. If I hadn't been blocked out of this whole affair, I could have told you that beforehand. The military and the system itself has not come down on everyone involved, because they can't, as long as we stood by what the founding fathers had meant for this power for the people to be used for. This is not an insurrection, it is a revolution. One that I inspired based on the rights given to us when this place was built. Any governing body that stands in the way of this driving demand for change risk being literally driven from our lands and literally kicked out of our country, along with any other governing body that supports them. Their department will be liquidized and deconstructed and left to crumble into the dust from which it was built upon. That includes military departments too, but this all hinges on us being responsible and staying to the powers and authority to which we have been given. When we stray from that path, then we risk being cast out along with them, no different than the problem of the tyrannical control that caused this. Knowing all this is the reason I planned to turn to hand control over the country to its military until we could re-establish a new governing body that fit the ideals the founding fathers intended for this country to be, to re-establish a path to that American dream we all have heard about but haven't actually seen. This was my intended path I planned to lead us towards. It was a path that would have held the least possible casualties in a hair-triggered situation that would have solved or at least led to the solution to many injustices and horrors this country has done in the years I personally know and have seen. For that is what I can honestly stand and speak out against. Not issues of the past or issues of principalities, but the here and now. The question had been raised recently as to why did I completely disappear from the scenario involving what led up to the January 6th event. Because of some very key factors. One being that I was not at the lead of this movement. I had mapped out a specific plan and course that ensured the least amount of casualties would occur. Those unavoidable casualties were the ones who guarded and kept the corrupted laws and made sure that even should their government fall, those laws would still stand in place, waiting for the political system to reset itself and become embedded into the new system. Laws and amendments that ensured that their control over the system would continue, and no matter what kind of system of government rose in the wake of it, they still would control the majority of its influence. I also discovered a weak spot in their plan. Here. They are vulnerable here. While the government is being purged of its corruption by the people empowered by the Declaration of Independence right to cast off tyrannical regimes, they have made an escape tunnel through bipartisan laws and amendments that allow them to seek refuge, asylum in territorial areas outside of the typical reach of the executive body branches of influence. Kind of like a contingency plan of evacuating the Senate committee, the same way the Joint Chiefs would be if DC were ever threatened. However, while they are in this escape from the people contingency plan in the outer territories, their official authority does not extend to those regions, nor does it protect them. To mask themselves from being found and extradited, they enter a phase of civilian status with no more power than the typical citizen, which means their authority and ability to return to any governmental status can be revoked, and even their civilian status can be taken and denied re-entry to the US, but do not arrest them if they are on US soil. They planned for something like this and can make a phone call to reinstate themselves temporarily until a hearing, claiming they were not present and all communication had stopped, so they were unaware when it's a damn lie, cause they put themselves there and cut the phone line basically, and that's why they didn't hear, but that has to wait for the hearing to clarify that, and they are temporarily back in power until then and able to pull a lot more dirty tricks once they're back in their office. All further restrictions would be withheld also until the hearing, so as long as you tell them to walk the plank and don't come back, that would screw them permanently. I think that's where the Democratic Committee went to when the Jan 6th event happened, and why Congress was telling them to return is because they opted to take that exit. For two, because I had learned that Donald Trump had tried to work his way into becoming a double agent for those committee members in the scenario and was going to hand over the key figures and help orchestrate the entire operation over to the corrupted politicians that they were trying to free the control of the US from, leading us into a totalitarian state of control that would have been ultimately controlled by Putin, who had key operative already in play to seize control at the first opportunity. And three, because of this clip here that showed me that the authority figures I had planned on turning temporary control of the US over to until we could design a new body of government had already invested their loyalty to another master.
The purpose of the United States military is simple. It is to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And with that comes two key tasks. Task one is to fight and win America's wars if necessary. And key task two is to prepare to fight and win America's wars. The United States military is a critical component of national power, which in concert with our diplomatic efforts, economic engine, and overriding hope of the American message, that will deter adversaries and preserve the peace. We are prepared to fight, however, and fight and win if those who seek to attack the United States and our allies and partners are undeterred. But force must always be the last resort when other means of achieving our ends have been exhausted. We are in an era of increased strategic competition. The current strategic landscape is witnessing rapid change. sexual assault and confront the issue of extremism. Both are corrosive to the very essence of what it means to be in the military. And they destroy cohesion, they destroy teamwork, and they reduce combat power. Additionally, we must continue to invest in leader development and talent management required for the future operating environment. And finally, we must continue to nurture and sustain a key strategic source of our strength, which is our network of many close allies and partners around the world. The Joint Force appreciates the work that our elected representatives do to ensure that we have the resources needed to train, equip, and man the force in order to be ready. The days of the Budget Control Act, as noted, enemies historically have grossly underestimated the United States and our people. They've underestimated our national resolve. They've underestimated our capability, our skill, and our combat power. And each in the past has made a fatal choice, which ended with their enrollment in the dustbin of history. The same will be true of any enemy that makes that mistake today or tomorrow. We are ready now and will remain so in the future. We're also facing tough strategic choices, and we're being increasingly challenged with very capable potential adversaries clearly acting in opposition to our interests. Consistent, predictable budgets informed by the will of the people are critical to our nation's defense, and the passage of this budget in a timely way is important. The FY is your joint force. Our contract with the American people is that we, the United States military, will be able to fight and win when called upon. We will support and defend this Constitution always and forever, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you.
The entire thing would have been doomed to failure, but I could not even warn anyone because Trump had already begun to turn their deaf ears to what I had to say. So I took the only option available. I did what the devil is so reputed to be infamous for. Poof, I vanished and receded into the shadows. Like a chameleon I shifted and changed personas, taking the ridicule and insults to my character and demonizing of my name, surviving and staying alive by the deeds I've committed that were unknown to the world as I avoided their attempt that would have made me into seeming like a monster and focusing my efforts on the rising issues in Europe to avoid the mounting warped image that they were putting together here for my modern-day crucifixion. I swayed the advance of Putin after downloading a copy of the Sept 11th report and played my role accordingly. All of them thinking they had cornered the devil in his own guilty deeds but failing to even realize that they all had been lured into a game of espionage played by a genuine master of deception, as those who were a part of this are now realizing that they were dancing on my puppet strings the entire time. To you, Donald, I swear this, that if I can find the opportunity to, I will personally cut off your lips, preserve them with salt on a board in the sun and use them on their corsage that I will leave on top of your casket at your funeral. I would be offended by your deeds, but not only are you a politician and a corporate executive, but even down to your core you are a sleazy two-bit slumlord. You are a shining epitome to the evil within this world, so I expected nothing less from you from the start. That's why I've always been 2 steps ahead of you, and the GOP considers you in the same regard. You have done nothing less than they anticipated of you since they chose you for your sleazy experience to guide us through the rising threat of China that landed you into your position in the first place. And if you think you have it all in the back of your pocket, Donny boy, you should think twice. The GOP planned on your move towards covering your ass like that. Who do you think informed me of so many things about your elected position, and you danced right into their contained trap by just being the two-faced slug that you are? Don't you see the shit you're in right now they set in place for you to greedy JP to? You know, for a casino owner you're pretty bad at not recognizing when you're